Jacob McCade hadn't touched a child in 2 years. Not since he buried his wife and 4-year-old daughter in Texas dirt and rode away from everything that mattered. He crossed into Montana territory with nothing but ghosts in his saddlebag and silence where his heart used to be. He planned to work through summer move-on before anyone learned his name. That was the plan. Then a barefoot girl stepped into the river crossing and wrapped both arms around his horse's leg. "Mister, please, they're gonna take my mama away, and she ain't got nobody." If you're new here, subscribe and follow this story to the very end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Jacob's horse reared. The girl held on. 6 years old, maybe less. Barefoot in river water up to her knees. A dog stood on the bank behind her yellow-brown ears, flat whimpering like it knew something bad was coming. The girl's arms tightened around his horse's foreleg. Her knuckles went white. Her eyes green as summer leaves locked onto Jacob's face with something no child should carry. Desperation. Pure and raw. "Whoa. Easy." Jacob steadied his horse. "Little one, let go before you get yourself hurt." "Not till you listen." Her voice cracked on the last word. Jacob's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed right on. Pull free, cross the river, disappear into the valley like he'd done for 2 years. Town after town, job after job, never staying long enough for anyone to need him, never staying long enough to fail anyone again. "I'm listening," he said, and hated himself for it. The girl's grip loosened, just slightly. "My name's Lily. Lily Whitmore. My mama's got a ranch up the hill. It ain't big, but it's ours. Papa built it before he died. I'm sorry about your papa. He died 18 months ago." Lily's chin trembled. "Folks say it was an accident at the mine, but Mama says it wasn't. Mama says somebody killed him. And now Sheriff Brennan says she owes money we don't owe. Says if she don't pay by Sunday, he's taking me away and selling our land." A fist closed around Jacob's chest. "Sunday, 5 days from now. Little one, I'm just passing through. I can't help with sheriffs and debts." "You got hands, don't you?" Lily's voice turned fierce. Fiercer than any 6-year-old had a right to be. "Mama needs help fixing things. The fence is falling down. The barn roof leaks. Sheriff Brennan told the whole town she can't manage on her own. Now everybody believes him because the place looks like nobody cares." Her voice broke. "But Mama cares. She works so hard her hands bleed. She just can't do it alone no more." The dog whined from the bank. Jacob looked at the girl standing in cold river water, barefoot, trembling, fighting for her mother with nothing but words and stubborn courage. He'd ridden past a lot of things these past 2 years, but a child standing in a river begging for her mama, that stops a man, whether he wants it to or not. "Where's this ranch?" Jacob heard himself say. Lily's face broke into relief so raw it hurt to witness. "Up the hill. 10 minutes. I'll show you. I ain't promising nothing. I'll look, that's all." "That's enough." Lily released his horse's leg. She splashed to the bank, scooped up her dog, and started up the trail without looking back. Certain, absolutely certain that Jacob would follow. He sat his horse in the middle of the river crossing. Water swirled around the animal's legs. July sun beat down hard on his shoulders. His hand found the burn scar on his left forearm, the one from the night he lost everything. 2 years ago, he'd been tracking a gang of cattle rustlers when they circled back to his ranch, set fire to his house with his wife Sarah and his daughter Emma inside. He'd seen the smoke from 3 miles away, rode so hard his horse nearly died under him, arrived in time to watch the roof collapse. Emma had been 4 years old, same age as this Lily girl, give or take. Jacob closed his eyes, then he followed the girl up the hill. The ranch sat on a gentle slope overlooking the river valley. Jacob saw the problems before he reached the gate. Fence posts leaning at angles, a barn door hanging crooked, weeds choking what should have been a vegetable garden. 2 milk cows stood in a pasture that needed clearing, but the cabin itself was clean. Curtains in the windows, flowers in a tin can by the door. Someone was fighting hard to keep this place alive. The front door opened before Lily reached the porch. A woman stepped out. 34, maybe. Honey brown hair pulled back, escaping in strands that framed a face weathered by sun and sharpened by 18 months of fighting alone. Her hands were rough. Her apron was stained with work. She carried a rifle. Not pointed at Jacob, but not pointed away either. Lily Grace Whitmore. Her voice was steady as stone. What did you do? Mama, he can help. I know he can. I told you not to go begging strangers. I wasn't begging. I was asking. Lily lifted her chin. Papa said there's a difference. Clara Whitmore's eyes met Jacob's across the distance. He saw calculation there. Weariness. Exhaustion so deep it had carved itself into her bones. And underneath it all, the stubborn fire of a woman who'd been fighting alone too long to trust easily. Ma'am, Jacob touched his hat. Your girl flagged me at the river. Says you could use a hand around the place. My girl talks too much. Mama. Hush, Lily. Clara's gaze didn't waver from Jacob. I appreciate the thought, mister. But I don't know you, and I don't take charity. Ain't charity. I'll work for meals. Heading north looking for ranch work through summer. I can fix that fence. Straighten your barn door. Clear that pasture. He paused. 1 week, then I ride on. Clara studied him. The rifle stayed in her hands. Biscuit Lily's dog trotted to Clara's side and sat waiting for her verdict. 1 week, Clara said finally. You sleep in the barn. You eat what we eat. And if I catch you drinking, stealing, or saying one wrong word to my daughter, I will shoot you. She paused. Am I clear? Crystal, ma'am. It's Clara. Mrs. Whitmore, if you're being formal. I don't need ma'am. Makes me feel like my mother-in-law. Jacob almost smiled. Almost. Lily pumped her fist. I told you, Mama. I told you God would send somebody. God didn't send him, Lily. You ambushed him in a river. There's a difference. But as Clara turned to go inside, Jacob caught the slightest softening around her eyes. Relief she wouldn't name. Gratitude she'd never admit. By afternoon, Jacob had stripped to his shirt sleeves and replaced 4 fence posts. The sun hammered down relentless. Sweat ran into his eyes. His hands remembered the rhythm of honest labor. And his mind quieted, the way it only did when his body was working too hard to think. Lily appeared with a jar of water. Mama said you'd get thirsty. She was right. Thank you. Lily sat on the ground, legs crossed, Biscuit curled beside her. She watched Jacob work with unblinking attention. You ever have a little girl? Jacob's hands stilled on the fence post. Yeah. What happened to her? Jacob drove the post into the ground with more force than necessary. She's gone. Lily was quiet for a moment. My papa's gone too. Mama says gone ain't the same as forgotten. Your mama's smart. She's the smartest person in the whole territory. Lily's voice rang with pride. She knew something was wrong before anybody. She told the sheriff. She told the banker. She told everybody. Her voice hardened. Nobody listened. Jacob stopped working. What do you mean something was wrong? Papa didn't die in no accident. Lily's green eyes went dark. Mama says somebody killed him. Made it look like the mine collapsed on him. But Papa knew those mines better than anybody. He wouldn't have made a mistake like that. Why would somebody want to hurt your Papa? 'Cause he wouldn't sell our land. Lily picked at the grass beside her. Some fancy man from the city kept coming around, offering money. Papa always said no. Then Papa died. And now Sheriff Brennan says we gotta pay money we don't owe, or else they take me away and sell the ranch anyway. A cold knot formed in Jacob's stomach. He'd seen this before. Powerful men using the law as a weapon, twisting justice into a tool for greed. Who's this fancy man? Don't know his name, but he wears a real nice suit. And he talks to Sheriff Brennan like the sheriff's his dog. Jacob set down the hammer. Your mama know you're telling me all this. Mama don't tell me nothing 'cause she thinks I'm too little. Lily's chin lifted. But I ain't too little. I hear things. I see things. I know more than Mama thinks I know." She paused. I know she cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. I know she's scared. I know Sunday's coming and she don't got nobody to help." Lily looked up at Jacob with those fierce green eyes. "That's why I went to the river. Mama says God helps those who help themselves. So I helped myself. I found you." Jacob's throat closed completely. He couldn't speak. Didn't need to. Biscuit barked once, then settled back down with a sigh. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk circled, and Jacob Elias McCade, the man who'd spent 2 years running from responsibility, felt something crack open inside his chest. Something he'd kept sealed since the night he watched his house burn. Supper was simple: salt pork, beans, cornbread. Clara served it without ceremony. Lily said grace, a child's prayer, earnest and quick, and they ate. "This is good, Mrs. Whitmore." Clara. She didn't look up from her plate. "And it's just food. Keeps you standing." "Mama's cornbread won first prize at the county fair," Lily announced, "before people stopped talking to us." The table went quiet. Clara's fork paused. "Lily, eat your beans." It's true. Mrs. Patterson said Mama's cornbread was the best she ever tasted. Then after Papa died and Mama started asking questions, Mrs. Patterson wouldn't even look at us in town. Clara's jaw tightened. "Lily Grace, Mr. Jacob should know." Lily looked at Jacob with those old young eyes. "If he's staying a week, he should know why folks look at us funny." Clara raised her eyes to Jacob. In them, he saw a woman deciding whether to trust. Whether to open the door even 1 inch wider to this stranger sitting at her dead husband's table. "My husband was murdered." Her voice was flat, controlled. "William found gold on our land. Small vein, nothing that would make us rich, but enough that someone noticed. A man named Harrison Cole. Senator Cole, they call him now. He owns Cole Mining Company, biggest operation in the territory." She paused. "Cole wanted our land. William said no. 3 months later, William was dead. Mining accident, they said. Tunnel collapse." "But you don't believe that." "William worked mines since he was 14 years old. He knew every beam, every support, every danger sign." Clara's voice hardened. "That tunnel didn't collapse on its own. Someone made it collapse. And you can prove this." "I know it. Proving it's different." Clara pushed her plate away. "Sheriff Brennan is Cole's man. The county judge is Cole's man. Half the businesses in town depend on Cole's mine for their livelihood." She looked at Jacob. "Nobody wants to hear that their meal ticket is a murderer. So Cole's using the sheriff to take your land. Brennan showed up last week with papers. Says William owed money to Cole Mining Company. Equipment loan supply costs. Says if I don't pay by Sunday, the territory seizes my land and puts Lily in a home in Helena." Lily grabbed her mother's arm. "I ain't going to no home in Helena." "You ain't going anywhere, baby." Clara's voice was fierce, but her eyes held the terror of a mother who didn't know how to stop what was coming. Jacob set down his fork. "How much does he say you owe? $3,000. "That's more than this ranch is worth on paper. I know." Clara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Convenient, isn't it? The debt is exactly large enough that I can't pay it, but the land is worth 10 times that if you count the gold underneath." "You got any proof William didn't borrow that money?" "William's records, his ledger book. He wrote down every penny that came in and went out." Clara paused. "But the ledger disappeared the night he died. Someone took it from the house while I was at the funeral." Jacob leaned forward. "Who else knows about the gold?" "Nobody. William kept it secret. He was going to file a claim proper, but he wanted to finish paying off the ranch first. Said he didn't want to give anybody reason to look too hard at our land. So Cole found out somehow. Cole's got eyes everywhere. Brennan, the assayer's office, the land registry. Someone talked, or someone saw William panning in the creek." Clara's hands clenched on the table. "Doesn't matter how. What matters is Cole killed my husband. Now he wants to take my daughter and my home. And this whole town stands by and watches because Harrison Cole pays their wages and buys their silence. Lily put her hand on her mother's. We ain't letting them, Mama. Clara covered her daughter's hand with her own. No, baby, we ain't. Jacob looked at the woman and the child across the table. Clara Whitmore fighting alone for 18 months. Lily Whitmore, 6 years old, carrying burdens no child should know. And somewhere in this valley, a man named Harrison Cole was circling like a vulture, waiting for the last pieces to fall into place. Who else got hurt? Clara looked at him. What do you mean? If Cole wanted your land, he probably wanted other land too. Who else sold out? Who else had accidents? Clara was quiet for a long moment. The Hendersons lost their place last spring. Tom Henderson fell off his horse and broke his neck. His widow sold to Cole a month later. Convenient. The Porters, too. Old man Porter died of a heart attack. His son was supposed to inherit, but somehow the paperwork got lost. Bank foreclosed. Clara's voice dropped. And Marcus Webb, the blacksmith. His wife got sick last winter. Real sick. He needed money for doctors. Cole offered to buy his shop. Marcus said no. 3 days later, his shop burned down. Faulty chimney, they said. But Marcus didn't sell. Marcus is the stubbornest man in the territory. He rebuilt. Took him 6 months, but he rebuilt. Clara paused. He's the only one in town who still talks to me. Jacob filed that name away. Marcus Webb, the blacksmith. Stubborn enough to stand against Cole. Tomorrow, Jacob said, I want to see your husband's grave. Clara's eyes widened. Why? Because I want to understand what kind of man he was. And because if Cole killed him, Cole made a mistake somewhere. Men like Cole always do. He paused. I've hunted worse than Harrison Cole, Mrs. Whitmore. Clara. He held her gaze. I was a Texas Ranger for 12 years. I know how men like Cole think. I know how they cover their tracks. And I know how to find the one thread that unravels everything. Clara studied him. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, not yet, but the possibility of trust. The first crack in a wall she'd built high and thick. You were a ranger. Was. What happened? Jacob's hand found the burn scar on his forearm. I lost my family. Decided I was done protecting anybody. And now... He looked at Lily, who was watching him with those fierce green eyes. Now a 6-year-old girl grabbed my horse in a river and asked for help. And I figure maybe running ain't the same as living. Clara's chin lifted. Tomorrow, then, I'll take you to William's grave. She stood clearing plates. At the doorway to the kitchen, she paused. Jacob? Yeah. If you're lying to me, if you're one of Cole's men, I ain't. If you are, I will kill you myself, and I won't feel sorry about it. I'd expect nothing less. Clara almost smiled. Almost. Get some sleep. You've got 5 days to fix 18 months of damage. We start at dawn. That night, Jacob lay in the barn on a bed of clean hay. Moonlight sliced through the gaps in the walls. His horse breathed steadily in the next stall. Biscuit had snuck in and lay curled at his feet. Through the barn wall, he could see the cabin window glowing with lamplight. Clara's silhouette moved behind the curtain, then stopped, then sat. She'd be there all night, searching through whatever papers William had left behind, looking for the proof that would save her daughter. Jacob stared at the ceiling. His hand found the burn scar. 2 years ago, he'd arrived too late to save Sarah and Emma. Too late by minutes, by seconds. He'd turned in his badge that night, walked away from the Rangers, from responsibility, from anyone who might depend on him. Because depending on Jacob, McCade got people killed. Now a 6-year-old girl had grabbed his horse in a river and said, please. And a woman sat alone in lamplight, fighting an enemy she couldn't beat, protecting a child she couldn't bear to lose, carrying a grief that nobody in this town would witness. Jacob rolled onto his side. He should leave at dawn. Before Lily woke. Before those green eyes looked at him with trust he hadn't earned and didn't deserve. He should leave. But Sunday was coming, and Harrison Cole was coming with it. 5 days. 5 days to build a case that should take months. 5 days to find the one thread that would unravel a murderer. 5 days to prove that a woman alone could beat the most powerful man in the territory. Jacob closed his eyes. His hands weren't shaking. For the first time in 2 years, his hands were steady. Dawn broke hot and golden. Jacob was already working when Lily found him. "You're still here." She stood in the barn door, biscuit at her heels. Relief written across every feature. "Said I would be. Mama said you might leave in the night. She said men do that sometimes." "Some men do." Jacob handed her a bucket. "I ain't some men. Cows need milking. You know how." "Course I know how. Papa taught me." They walked to the pasture together. "Mr. Jacob." "Just Jacob." "Jacob." Lily looked up at him with those fierce green eyes. "You know how to fight." "What kind of fight?" "The kind where somebody bigger and meaner than you tries to take what's yours. And everybody watches. And nobody helps." Jacob stopped walking. He looked at the girl. 6 years old, barefoot. Asking a stranger how to survive a world that had already taken her father and now wanted her mother. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I know how to fight that kind of fight. Will you teach me? I'll do better than that." Jacob put his hand on her shoulder. "I'll stand next to you when it comes." Lily's eyes filled. She blinked hard the way children do when they're trying to be brave. "Papa used to say every tool has a purpose. Mama says you're just passing through. But I think maybe—" She paused. "I think maybe your purpose is right here." Jacob's throat closed completely. He couldn't speak. Biscuit barked once. The cows lowed in the pasture. Somewhere up the hill, Clara stood on the porch watching them. Watching the stranger who'd appeared from nowhere talking to her daughter like he'd known her for years. Sunday was 4 days away. And Jacob Elias McCade, the man who'd run from everything, had just made a promise to a child he barely knew. In a fight he didn't fully understand. Against an enemy he hadn't yet faced. His hands were steady. That had to count for something. Lily milked both cows without being asked twice. Her hands moved quick and sure, the way a child learns when there's nobody else to do it. Jacob watched from the fence hammer in hand, and something twisted in his chest. Emma would have been this age now. 6 years old. Learning to milk cows. Learning to be brave. "You're staring." Clara's voice came from behind him. He turned. She stood with her arms crossed, studying him with those storm-colored eyes. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how your girl's got more grit than most men I've known." Clara's expression softened. Just slightly. "She gets that from her father. William could stare down a tornado and not blink." "And you?" "I'm the tornado." Jacob almost smiled. "I believe it." Clara uncrossed her arms. "You said you wanted to see William's grave. I'm ready." They walked together through the back pasture, past the tree line, to a small clearing on the hill. A wooden cross stood in the center, weathered but cared for. Fresh wildflowers lay at its base. "Lily picks those every morning," Clara said quietly. "Rain or shine. Says her papa needs to know somebody's still thinking about him." Jacob knelt by the grave. William James Whitmore, beloved husband and father, 1849 to 1886. "Tell me about him." Clara was quiet for a moment. William was the most stubborn man God ever made. He came to Montana with nothing but $12 and a mule. Built this ranch with his bare hands. Dug that well. Raised those walls. Her voice caught. "He found me in a general store in Helena. I was 19, working the counter, living in a boarding house with 6 other girls. He walked in, looked at me, and said, 'Ma'am, I don't know your name, but I'm going to marry you someday.' Bold man. Foolish man. I told him to get out." Clara laughed softly. "He came back every day for 3 months. Bought more sugar and flour than any human being could use in a lifetime. Finally, I said yes, just to stop him from bankrupting himself." Jacob stood. "He loved you." "He loved me so much it scared me sometimes." Clara's eyes glistened. The day he died, he kissed me goodbye like always. Said he'd be home for supper. Said he had something important to tell me. What was it? I never found out. He went to the mine to pick up his wages. 3 hours later, Sheriff Brennan was at my door. Jacob's jaw tightened. Who found the body? Cole's men. Said the tunnel collapsed while William was inside. Said it was nobody's fault, just bad luck. But you don't believe that. William worked mines for 20 years. He knew every beam, every support, every crack in the rock. Clara's voice hardened. That tunnel didn't collapse on its own. Someone loosened the supports. Someone made sure William was inside when it fell. And you told the sheriff. I told anyone who would listen. Brennan laughed in my face, said I was hysterical with grief, said I needed to accept what happened and move on. Clara's hands clenched at her sides. 3 weeks later, the debt papers arrived. $3,000 William supposedly borrowed. Money we never saw. Money we never needed. Cole needed you desperate. Cole needed me broken. Clara lifted her chin. He miscalculated. Jacob looked at the grave, then at the woman standing beside it. 18 months of fighting alone. 18 months of being called hysterical, crazy, grief-mad. 18 months of watching her neighbors turn away. And still she stood. Clara. What? I believe you. She went still. You believe me. I've seen men like Cole before. They take what they want and they don't care who gets hurt. They use the law like a club. They turn neighbors into enemies. Jacob met her eyes. Your husband was murdered, and Sunday we're going to prove it. Clara's chin trembled, just once. Then she rebuilt herself brick by brick the way she always did. How? We start with Marcus Webb. You said he's the only one who still talks to you. If Cole burned his shop and he rebuilt anyway, he's got courage. Maybe he's got information too. Clara nodded slowly. Marcus knew William better than anyone. They worked the mines together before William started ranching. Then Marcus might know what William was planning to tell you that day. Clara's eyes widened. I never thought of that. Let's go find out. They rode into town together. Clara had insisted on bringing Lily, said she didn't trust leaving her alone at the ranch. Not with Sunday coming. Not with Brennan's men watching. The town was small. One main street. A general store, a saloon, a church, and at the far end, a blacksmith shop with fresh-built walls that still smelled of new wood. People stared as they rode past. Clara kept her eyes forward. Lily pressed close to her mother's side. Jacob felt the weight of every gaze. Suspicion, curiosity, fear. This was a town that had learned to look away, a town that had chosen comfort over justice. He'd seen towns like this before. They made him sick. Marcus Webb stood at his forge hammering a horseshoe. He was 40 years old, arms like tree trunks, face weathered by fire and smoke. He looked up when they approached. Clara Whitmore. His voice was gruff but warm. Been a while. Been hiding Marcus, like everybody else. You ain't hiding, you're surviving. There's a difference. Marcus set down his hammer. His eyes moved to Jacob. Who's this? Jacob McCade. He's helping me fix the ranch. Helping. Marcus's gaze sharpened. Or staying. 1 week. We'll see after that. Marcus studied Jacob for a long moment. Whatever he saw, it satisfied him. Come inside. We need to talk where ears can't hear. The back room of the shop was cramped and hot, filled with tools and half-finished projects. Marcus closed the door and leaned against it. You're poking at a hornet's nest, Clara. You know that. I know. Cole's got eyes everywhere. Sheriff Brennan, the assayer, the banker. Half the business owners in this town owe him money or favors. I know that too. And you're still fighting. What choice do I have? Clara's voice broke. Sunday they're taking my daughter. Sunday they're taking everything William built. I can't just accept that, Marcus. I won't. Marcus rubbed his face. William came to see me the day he died. Clara went still. He came to see you. That morning, before he went to the mine. Marcus paused. He was excited. Said he'd found something. Proof, he called it. Proof that Cole was stealing from the miners. Jacob stepped forward. What kind of proof? I don't know. William didn't say exactly, just said he'd been keeping records, tracking the weights, the gold Cole said the miners pulled versus the gold that actually came out. The numbers didn't match. Not even close. William said Cole was skimming at least 20%. Shorting the miners on their shares, pocketing the difference. Clara pressed her hand to her mouth. William was going to expose him. He was going to take his proof to the territorial marshal in Helena. Said he had names, dates, numbers. Everything a federal man would need. And Cole found out. Marcus nodded slowly. Must have. Because 3 hours later, William was dead, and his ledger book was gone. Jacob's mind raced. Where did William keep this ledger? In his saddlebag. Always carried it with him. Said he didn't trust leaving it at home where somebody might find it. So when the tunnel collapsed, the ledger was with him. Marcus's voice dropped. Cole's men pulled William's body out, said his saddlebag was empty, said the collapse must have scattered everything. Convenient. Too convenient. Marcus looked at Jacob. I've thought about this for 18 months. If Cole has that ledger, he would have destroyed it by now. But if it wasn't in the saddlebag, then William hid it somewhere else. Clara grabbed Marcus's arm. Where would William hide something he didn't want Cole to find? I don't know. He never told me. Marcus paused. But there was one place William always went when he wanted to think. A spot by the creek where the water bends around a big rock. Said it was the only place in Montana where he could hear himself think. Lily's voice came from the corner. Papa's fishing spot. Every head turned. The girl had been so quiet they'd forgotten she was there. What did you say, baby? Clara knelt beside her daughter. Papa's fishing spot. The big rock where the creek bends. Lily's eyes were bright. Papa used to take me there every Saturday. He carved our initials in the oak tree. L and W, said it was our secret place, just ours. Clara looked at Jacob. He saw the same thought in her eyes that burned in his own. We need to go there. Now. They rode hard. Lily led the way, Biscuit running alongside her pony ears, streaming back. Clara rode beside Jacob, her face tight with desperate hope. If William had hidden his proof at the fishing spot, if 18 months of searching and fighting and praying had been leading to this one moment, the creek appeared through the trees. Lily pulled her pony to a stop. There, that's it. A granite boulder sat where the water bent sharp. An oak tree grew beside it, roots gripping the bank. Jacob could see the carved initials in the bark. LW roughed into the wood at a child's height. Lily scrambled off her pony and ran to the tree. Papa showed me a hiding spot. He kept my birthday present here once, said nobody would ever find it. She dropped to her knees beside the roots. Her small hands dug into the soft earth. Clara knelt beside her, digging too. Jacob watched. His heart pounded against his ribs. 10 seconds. 20. Lily's fingers hit something solid. Got it. She pulled out a wooden box, small as a bread loaf, wrapped in oilcloth. Her eyes went wide. This ain't my birthday present. Clara took the box with trembling hands. She peeled back the cloth. Inside lay a leather-bound ledger. William's handwriting covered the first page. Records of coal mining company. Discrepancies and evidence. Clara made a sound. Not quite a sob, not quite a laugh. Something between grief and triumph that had no name. He did it! Her voice shook. That stubborn, beautiful man. He knew they were coming for him, and he still left proof. Lily hugged her mother's waist. Papa fixed it, Mama. Even from heaven he fixed it. Jacob's throat was tight. He looked away, giving them the moment. His hand found the burn scar on his forearm. Emma hadn't gotten this chance. Sarah hadn't left behind proof or justice or a daughter who remembered. But William Whitmore had fought back. Even dying, he'd fought back. We need to get this somewhere safe. Jacob's voice was rough. Not your cabin. Brennan could come with a search warrant. Clara nodded, wiping her face. Marcus. We take it to Marcus. He kept William's secrets for years. He'll keep this. They rode back to town as the sun began to sink. But halfway there, dust rose on the road ahead. Clara pulled her horse up short. Brennan. Sheriff Wade Brennan rode toward them with 2 deputies at his back. He was 45 years old, thick through the shoulders, wearing a star that looked too big for the man inside. He smiled when he saw them, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Whitmore. Out for a ride, I see. Visiting my husband's grave. That a crime now. Depends on what else you were doing. Brennan's gaze moved to Jacob. And who you were doing it with. Word is, you've got a drifter staying at your place. Folks are talking. Let them talk. Now, Mrs. Whitmore, that ain't wise. Brennan's smile widened. A woman in your position with your situation being what it is. Appearances matter. Sunday's coming fast. Clara's spine straightened. Sunday when you plan to steal my daughter. Sunday when I ensure the child's welfare. Brennan leaned forward in his saddle. There's a difference. Jacob moved his horse forward, slowly, deliberately. Sheriff? Who's asking? Jacob McCade. Mrs. Whitmore hired me to do some repairs. Repairs? Brennan studied him. You look like more than a handyman, Mr. McCade. And you look like more than a sheriff. The air between them went cold. Brennan's hand drifted toward his gun. Jacob didn't move, didn't blink. Easy now. Brennan's voice was soft, dangerous. I'm just being neighborly, making sure Mrs. Whitmore and her girl are safe. They're safe. Are they? Brennan looked at Clara, then at Lily. Because I've heard some troubling things. Heard Mrs. Whitmore's been asking questions again, stirring up old business that should stay buried. My husband was murdered. Your husband died in an accident. Tragic. Terrible. But an accident. Brennan's smile disappeared. Let it go, Clara. Accept the debt. Sign over the land. And maybe I can convince the court that Lily belongs with her mother. Clara's voice was ice. Get off my road, Sheriff. Your road, Brennan laughed. Nothing in this valley is yours anymore. Senator Cole owns this territory. The sooner you accept that, the easier Sunday will be. He turned his horse. 5 days, Mrs. Whitmore. Think about what I said. The deputies followed him down the road, dust rising behind them. Lily pressed against her mother's side. Mama, are they going to take me? Clara pulled her daughter close. Over my dead body. Jacob watched Brennan disappear around the bend. His hands weren't shaking. His heart was cold and steady and sure. Clara. What? We've got 5 days to build a case. We've got William's ledger. We've got Marcus as a witness. But we need more. More what? More people willing to stand up. Brennan said Cole owns this territory. That means Cole has enemies he doesn't know about. People who lost land. People who lost family. People who've been too scared to talk. Clara's eyes narrowed. Agnes Porter. She's 80 years old. Her husband died last spring. Heart attack, they said. But Agnes never believed it. Where does she live? Edge of town, past the church. She's the meanest woman in Montana, and she hates Harrison Cole with every bone in her body. Jacob smiled. For real this time. Sounds perfect. Clara looked at him for a long moment. You really think we can do this 5 days against the most powerful man in the territory? I think your husband left you a weapon. I think there are people in this town who are tired of being afraid, and I think... He paused. I think maybe my purpose is right here. Lily's words. From that morning at the pasture. Clara's breath caught. She didn't speak. Couldn't speak. But she reached across the space between their horses and took his hand. Just for a moment. Her fingers were rough and warm and strong. Then she released him and turned her horse toward home. 5 days then. Let's make them count. They didn't make it home before dark. Jacob kept looking over his shoulder the whole ride, waiting for Brennan's men to reappear. Clara rode with the ledger pressed against her chest, Lily dozing against her back. Biscuit trotting alongside with his ears flat. When the ranch finally came into view, Clara pulled her horse to a stop. Something's wrong. Jacob saw it too. The barn door stood open, the one he'd fixed 2 days ago. Stay here. Like hell I will. Clara handed Lily down to Jacob and pulled her rifle from the saddle. She cocked it with a sound that echoed across the valley. Lily, stay with Biscuit. Don't move until I say. They approached the barn together, side by side. Jacob pushed the door wider. Nothing. Nobody. But someone had been here. The hay was scattered. His saddlebag had been torn open, contents dumped across the floor. They were looking for something, Clara whispered. The ledger. Brennan must have suspected, but we had it with us. He didn't know that. Jacob crouched beside his scattered belongings. He was guessing, hoping. Clara's grip tightened on her rifle. They came into my home, while we were gone. They came onto my land. Clara, this is my land. Her voice shook with fury. William built this place. Lily was born in that cabin. And Cole's men just walk in like they own it already. Jacob stood. They're scared. What? Think about it. Brennan could have waited. Could have come Sunday with his papers and his deputies and taken everything legal. But instead he's searching barns. He's sending messages. Jacob met her eyes. That means Cole knows we found something. He's scared of what it might be. Clara's fury shifted, hardened into something colder, more dangerous. Good, let him be scared. She turned toward the cabin. Lily, it's safe. Come inside. They ate supper in silence. Lily fell asleep at the table, exhausted from the long day. Clara carried her to bed, tucked the quilt around her, and stood watching her daughter sleep for a long moment. When she came back to the kitchen, Jacob had the ledger open on the table. Find anything? Everything. Jacob turned a page. William was methodical. Dates, names, amounts. Every ounce of gold that came out of Cole's mine for the last 2 years. And the discrepancies. 23%. Cole was skimming almost a quarter of the gold and reporting lower numbers to the miners. Jacob shook his head. This isn't just theft. This is fraud. Federal fraud. If the territorial marshal saw this, Cole would hang, or spend the rest of his life in prison. Jacob closed the ledger. That's why he killed William. That's why he wants your land, not just for the gold underneath, because William's proof is somewhere on this property and Cole won't rest until he finds it. Clara sat down heavily. So what do? We make copies, send them to Helena, to the federal marshal, to the governor if we have to. Brennan controls the post office. Nothing leaves this town without him knowing. Jacob was quiet for a moment. I know someone. A man I used to ride with in the Rangers. Sam Holloway. He's stationed in Billings now. If I could get word to him. How? I'd have to ride out myself. Tomorrow night, after dark. Clara's face went pale. You'd leave? Just for 2 days, 3 at most. I'd be back before Sunday. And if you're not, Jacob reached across the table, took her hand. I'll be back, Clara, I swear it. She held his gaze for a long moment. Searching, testing. You better be, because I can't do this alone, not anymore. You won't have to. Something passed between them, something neither of them named. Clara pulled her hand back first. We need Agnes Porter, tomorrow, before you leave. Agreed. And Marcus. He needs to know what we found. I'll take him a copy tonight. Clara stood. Jacob. Yeah. Thank you for staying, for believing me. You're easy to believe, Clara. She almost smiled. Almost. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. Jacob didn't sleep. He lay in the barn listening to the night sounds, watching the cabin window where Clara's lamp burned until well past midnight. Somewhere out there, Harrison Cole was planning his next move. Brennan was watching. And Sunday was 3 days away. Dawn came fast. Jacob found Marcus at the forge before the town was awake. He handed over the copied pages without a word. Marcus read them by lamplight. His face went gray. Lord Almighty, William was right about everything. Cole killed him for these numbers. Cole's going to kill you too if he finds out you have them. Marcus looked up. You know that, right? I know. And you're still doing this. A woman and her child are about to lose everything because a powerful man wanted their land. I've run from that kind of fight before. Jacob's jaw tightened. I'm done running. Marcus studied him. You loved somebody once. Somebody you lost. It wasn't a question. Wife and daughter, 2 years ago. Fire. I'm sorry. Me too. Jacob took the copied pages back. But sorry don't fix anything. Action does. You with me? Marcus picked up his hammer. I've been waiting 18 months for somebody to ask me that. They found Agnes Porter behind her cabin feeding chickens. She was 80 years old, bent, but not broken, with white hair pulled back tight, and eyes that had seen more than most people ever would. Clara Whitmore. She didn't turn around. Heard you've been causing trouble? Yes, ma'am. Good. Agnes threw the last handful of feed and finally faced them. It's about damn time somebody did. Clara stepped forward. Mrs. Porter, we found proof. William kept records. Cole's been stealing from the miners for years. Agnes's eyes sharpened. How much? 23% of every ounce of gold that came out of that mine. Agnes laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. George told me, right before he died. He said the numbers didn't add up, said he was going to write to the territorial marshal. Her voice dropped. 2 days later his heart gave out. Natural causes, the doctor said. But George Porter never had heart trouble in his life. Jacob stepped forward. You think Cole killed your husband? I know Cole killed my husband. Same as he killed William Whitmore. Same as he killed Tom Henderson. Agnes's eyes blazed. That man's got more blood on his hands than a battlefield surgeon. And this town looks the other way because he pays their wages. Not everyone. Clara touched the old woman's arm. Marcus Webb stands with us. You stand with us. Others will too. Others are scared. They won't be scared forever. Not when they hear the truth. Agnes studied Clara for a long moment. You know what happens if you fail, girl. Cole doesn't just take your land. He buries you. Same as he buried George. Same as he buried your William. I know. And you're still fighting. I've got a daughter who believes in justice. A daughter who stood in a river and begged a stranger for help. Clara's voice cracked. What kind of mother would I be if I taught her to give up? Agnes's expression shifted, softened. Your girl. Lily, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. She's got fire in her. Reminds me of myself at that age. Agnes paused. I'll stand with you, Clara. On Sunday I'll be in that courtroom. I'll tell them what happened to George. I'll tell them everything. Clara's eyes filled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Sunday's a long way off. Agnes looked at Jacob. And you. Texas Ranger, aren't you? Was. Once a ranger, always a ranger. That's what George used to say. Agnes pointed a gnarled finger at him. You better not leave this woman before this is done. She's had enough people leaving. I ain't going nowhere. Agnes nodded once. Good. Now get off my property. I've got chickens to feed and a testimony to prepare. They rode back toward town. Halfway there, Clara pulled her horse alongside Jacob's. She believed us. She was waiting to believe somebody. How many others are waiting, you think? Only one way to find out. They spent the afternoon going door to door. The Henderson widow, the Patterson boy. 2 miners who worked at Cole's operation and had noticed the discrepancies themselves. Most people closed their doors, but some listened. Some remembered family members who died too soon, too conveniently. Some remembered numbers that didn't add up. Some remembered the fear in their neighbors' eyes and the silence that followed. By evening, they had 7 names. 7 people willing to stand in a courtroom and speak the truth. It wasn't an army, but it was a start. They were riding home when Jacob smelled it. Smoke. Clara smelled it too. Her face went white. Lily! They kicked their horses into a gallop. The ranch came into view and Jacob's heart stopped. The barn was burning. Flames shot through the roof, orange and terrible against the darkening sky. The horses screamed in their stalls. Smoke poured across the property in thick black waves. "Lily!" Clara was off her horse before it stopped moving. "Lily!" The cabin door flew open. Lily ran out, Biscuit at her heels, coughing and crying. "Mama! The barn, I tried to put it out, but it was too big." Clara swept her daughter into her arms. "Are you hurt, baby? Are you hurt?" "No, Mama. I'm okay." "But the horses?" Jacob was already running. He hit the barn doors shoulder first. They burst inward. Heat slammed into him like a wall. Smoke choked his lungs. His horse, Clara's mare, Lily's pony. They were screaming, rearing, trapped. Jacob grabbed a blanket from the ground, soaked it in the water trough, and wrapped it around his face. He moved through the flames, found the first stall, threw open the gate. His horse bolted past him, mane smoking. Second stall. Clara's mare, eyes rolling white with terror. "Easy, girl, easy." He slapped her flank. She ran. Third stall. Lily's pony. The support beam above him groaned. Jacob grabbed the pony's halter and pulled. The animal fought him, too scared to move. "Come on! Come on!" The beam cracked. Jacob threw himself backward, dragging the pony with him. They hit the ground just as the roof collapsed where they'd been standing. Clara was at his side instantly. "Jacob? Jacob, can you hear me?" He coughed, gasped, tasted smoke and ash. "I'm all right." Lily grabbed the pony's halter, tears streaming down her face. "Buttercup. You saved Buttercup." Jacob sat up slowly. His lungs burned. His hands were scorched. But the horses were safe. The barn was lost. They stood watching it burn, the four of them, plus the dog, while their neighbors gathered at the property line, but didn't come closer. Clara's face was stone. "Brennan, we don't know that." "The hell we don't!" She turned to Jacob, fury blazing in her eyes. "This is my home, my husband's home, and they think they can burn it down and I'll just give up." "Clara, I'm not giving up." Her voice was steel. "You hear me? I'm not giving up. Not ever. They can burn every building on this property, and I will rebuild them with my bare hands. They can take everything I own, and I will start over. But I will not let them win. I will not let my daughter grow up believing that powerful men always get what they want." Jacob looked at her. The firelight danced across her face. Her honey-brown hair had come loose, streaming around her shoulders. Her storm-gray eyes were bright with tears she refused to shed. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Clara." "What?" He stepped forward, took her hands, held them tight. "I love you." The words came out before he could stop them. Clara went still. Lily looked up, eyes wide. "Jacob, I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. I know there's a fight coming and Sunday's 3 days away and everything could fall apart." He didn't let go of her hands. "But I've spent 2 years running from love because I was afraid of losing it again. And standing here watching you refuse to break, watching you fight for your daughter and your home and everything you believe in." His voice cracked. "I don't want to run anymore. I want to stay. Here. With you. With Lily. Whatever happens Sunday, whatever happens after that, I want to stay." Clara's eyes filled. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "Jacob." "Yeah. I love you too." She said it quietly, almost shyly, and then she kissed him. Lily squealed. Biscuit barked. And somewhere behind them, the barn kept burning. But Clara's arms were around his neck, and her lips were warm against his, and for one perfect moment, nothing else mattered. When they finally pulled apart, Lily was grinning so wide it split her face. "Does this mean you're gonna be my new papa?" Jacob knelt down to her level. "Would that be all right with you? Would it be all right?" Lily threw her arms around his neck. "It would be the best thing ever." Clara wiped her eyes. "We still have 3 days to survive." "I know. And Brennan just burned our barn. I know. And Cole's going to come at us with everything he has. Clara. Jacob stood, keeping one arm around Lily. Let him come. Let them all come. They burned your barn and you're still standing. They killed your husband and you're still fighting. They tried to take your daughter and you found proof that could put them all in prison. He took her hand again. Harrison Cole should be scared of you, because you're the most dangerous thing he's ever faced. Clara lifted her chin. Damn right I am. The fire burned itself out by midnight. They slept in the cabin together, all three of them, Lily tucked between Jacob and Clara, like she belonged there. And when dawn came, Jacob rode out alone toward Billings. He had a letter to deliver, a friend to find, and 3 days to save everything that mattered. Jacob rode hard for 2 days. He barely slept, barely ate, pushed his horse until the animal was lathered and trembling, then walked beside it for miles before mounting again. Sam Holloway was exactly where Jacob knew he'd be. The territorial marshal's office in Billings, sitting behind a desk that looked too small for a man his size. Jacob McCade. Sam stood so fast his chair fell backward. I thought you were dead. Not yet. Sam came around the desk and grabbed Jacob's hand, pulled him into a rough embrace. 2 years. 2 years without a word. We searched for you after... I know. Jacob pulled back. I wasn't ready to be found. And now I need help. Jacob told him everything. Clara, Lily, William's ledger, Cole's fraud, the burned barn, Sunday. Sam listened without interrupting. When Jacob finished, Sam's face was stone. Harrison Cole. I've heard that name before. He owns half of Montana. He owns half of Montana's politicians, you mean? Sam pulled out a map. We've had complaints about his operation for years. Miners saying the numbers don't add up. Widows saying their husbands died too convenient. But nobody had proof. I've got proof. Jacob handed over the copied pages. William Whitmore kept records for 2 years before Cole killed him. Sam studied the pages. His jaw tightened. This is enough to arrest him. Hell, this is enough to hang him. Can you make it to the hearing Sunday morning? I'll be there. Sam grabbed his hat. And I won't be alone. I've got 3 deputies who've been waiting for a chance at Cole. We ride at dawn. Thank you, Sam. Don't thank me yet. Cole's got a lot of friends in high places. Even with this evidence, Sunday could go either way. I know. Jacob headed for the door. But at least Clara won't be alone. He rode through the night. Clara was waiting on the porch when he came up the road. She ran to meet him before he'd even dismounted. You came back. Told you I would? She threw her arms around his neck, held him so tight he could feel her heart pounding against his chest. I was so scared, Jacob. Every hour you were gone, I kept thinking, I'm here. He pulled back enough to see her face. And I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again. Lily appeared in the doorway, Biscuit at her heels. Did you find help? I found a federal marshal. He's bringing 3 deputies. They'll be here by Sunday morning. Clara's eyes widened. Federal marshals? Cole's been stealing from the territory for years. That makes it federal business. Sam Holloway's a good man. He'll see justice done. Clara pressed her hand to her mouth. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she laughed. A real laugh, bright and broken and full of hope. We might actually win this. We're going to win this. Jacob took her hands. But first, we need to talk about tomorrow. They sat at the kitchen table. The 3 of them. Planning. Brennan will try to control the hearing, Jacob said. He'll want it quick and quiet. In and out before anyone can object. So we don't let him. Clara's voice was steel. We make noise. We bring witnesses. We turn his hearing into a trial. Who's confirmed? Agnes Porter, Marcus Webb, the Henderson widow, 2 miners, Frank Davis and Henry Chen, and Reverend Hayes sent word this morning. He'll speak. Jacob raised an eyebrow. The Reverend, I thought he was staying neutral. He was, until Brennan burned our barn. Clara's eyes flashed. The Reverend saw the smoke from the church, came to help, saw Lily crying in the yard, and something changed in him. Good. That's 7 witnesses. Plus you and me. Plus my federal marshals. Jacob paused. But there's something else we need to plan for. What? Cole himself. He's been hiding behind Brennan this whole time. But when he sees federal marshals in that courtroom, he'll know the game is up. A cornered animal is dangerous, Clara. He might do something desperate. Clara's hand found his across the table. Like what? I don't know, but we need to keep Lily close. Every second. Don't let her out of your sight. Lily spoke up from her chair. I ain't scared of Senator Cole. I know you're not, sweetheart, but I need you to be careful anyway. Can you do that for me? Lily nodded slowly. I'll stay close, I promise. That's my girl. Clara squeezed his hand. Whatever happens tomorrow, Jacob. I know. No, listen to me. Her gray eyes held his. Whatever happens, I want you to know something. These past 5 days have been the best of my life since William died. You gave me hope. You gave Lily a father again. And I... Her voice broke. I love you. More than I thought I could love anyone after losing William. And if tomorrow goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Take Lily. Get her out. Don't let Cole put her in that orphan home in Helena. Take her to my sister in Oregon. Ellen Porter in Baker City. She'll raise her right. Jacob's throat closed. Clara, promise me. He looked at the woman across the table. The woman who had fought alone for 18 months. The woman who had refused to break no matter how hard Cole tried to break her. I promise. But you ain't going to need that promise. Because tomorrow we're going to walk into that courthouse together. And we're going to tear Harrison Cole's world apart. Clara's chin lifted. Then let's get some sleep. We've got a fight to win. Sunday dawned hot and bright. Jacob was up before the sun. He checked his gun, cleaned it, loaded it, checked it again. Clara came out of the cabin in her best dress. The one she'd worn to William's funeral, she told him. Seemed fitting to wear it to his vindication. Lily wore a white blouse and a blue ribbon in her hair. She held Biscuit's collar with one hand and her mother's hand with the other. Ready? Jacob asked. Ready. They rode into town together. The streets were already crowded. Word had spread. The whole county seemed to have gathered at the courthouse, drawn by rumor and curiosity and the strange electricity that hangs in the air before a storm. Sam Holloway met them at the steps. 3 deputies inside, 2 more watching the back. Cole's already here. Jacob's jaw tightened. He came himself. Arrived an hour ago. Brought a lawyer from Helena. Expensive suit. Expensive words. Sam's eyes hardened. He thinks he's going to win. He's wrong. They walked up the steps together. Clara held Lily's hand. Jacob walked beside them, one hand resting on his gun. The courtroom was packed. Every bench was full. People stood along the walls. The air was thick with heat and anticipation. Sheriff Brennan stood by the judge's bench looking uncomfortable. His eyes found Jacob, and something flickered there. Fear. Calculation. And in the front row, Senator Harrison Cole sat with his Helena lawyer. Cole was 60 years old, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than most men made in a year. He had the face of a grandfather, warm eyes, gentle smile. But Jacob saw what lay beneath that mask. Cold, calculating, ruthless. The eyes of a man who had killed before and would kill again. Brennan banged his gavel. This hearing will come to order. We are here to determine the custody of the minor child, Lily Grace Whitmore, currently in the care of her mother, Clara Jane Whitmore. He shuffled papers. The territory has received concerns regarding Mrs. Whitmore's fitness as a parent. The petitioner. Sheriff? Sam Holloway's voice cut through the room. Brennan froze. Who's speaking? Marshal Sam Holloway, Territorial Office. Sam walked forward, his star gleaming in the light from the windows. I'm afraid this hearing is being expanded. Expanded. This court has received evidence that Senator Harrison Cole has engaged in criminal fraud against the miners of this territory. Evidence that suggests William Whitmore was murdered to prevent him from exposing this fraud. The courtroom erupted. Cole was on his feet. "This is outrageous. I demand—" "Sit down, Senator." Sam's voice was ice. "You'll have your chance to speak." Brennan's face had gone gray. "Marshal, this isn't what Sheriff A. convenient hearing, where you take a child from her mother and hand over her land to the man who killed her father." Sam turned to face the crowd. "Because that's what this was supposed to be, and we all know it." Silence. Clara stood. "My name is Clara Whitmore. My husband William was murdered 18 months ago, made to look like a mining accident, and I have proof." She held up the ledger. "This is my husband's handwriting. Records he kept for 2 years before he died. Every ounce of gold that came out of Cole's mine. Every discrepancy between what the miners were told and what Cole reported." She opened to a marked page. 23%. Senator Cole was stealing 23% of everything his miners produced, cheating them out of their fair wages, cheating the territory out of its rightful taxes. Cole's lawyer stood. "This is hearsay. We have no way to verify." "Then verify it." Clara threw the ledger on the bench. "Have your own accountants check the numbers. Have the territorial assayer compare them to Cole's official reports. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. If I'm right—" She turned to face Cole directly. "If I'm right, you murdered my husband because he was going to expose you. And you've spent 18 months trying to destroy me because I wouldn't stop asking questions." Cole's face was stone. "Mrs. Whitmore, your grief is understandable, but these accusations are true." Marcus Webb stood from his bench. "Every word." The crowd murmured. "William came to me the day he died, showed me his records, said he was going to take them to Helena." Marcus's voice was steady. 3 hours later, he was dead. And I've been too scared to speak up until now." He looked at Cole. "No more." Agnes Porter rose from her seat. "George Porter was my husband. Heart attack, they said. But George never had heart trouble in his life. He died because he noticed the same things William noticed, and Cole couldn't let him talk." Another woman stood, the Henderson widow. "Tom Henderson. Fell off his horse. My husband rode horses since he was 5 years old. He didn't fall. He was pushed." One by one they rose. Frank Davis the miner. Henry Chen. 3 others Jacob didn't recognize. 7 people. 8. 9. Each with a story. Each with a loss. Cole's face had gone pale. His lawyer was whispering furiously in his ear. Brennan stood frozen behind the bench, watching his carefully constructed world collapse. Then Reverend Hayes stood. The courtroom went silent. "I've been a coward." The Reverend's voice shook. "For 18 months I've watched this woman fight alone. I've watched my congregation look the other way. I've told myself it wasn't my place to interfere." He walked to the front of the room. "But Friday night I saw smoke rising from the Whitmore ranch. I rode out to help and found a little girl crying in the yard. Her barn was burning. Her mother was screaming for water. And I knew that this wasn't an accident." He turned to face Cole. "You burned her barn because she wouldn't stop fighting, because she wouldn't give up." His voice rose. "What kind of man burns a child's home? What kind of monster?" Cole was on his feet. "I don't have to listen to this." "Sit down, Senator." Sam Holloway's hand was on his gun. "You're not going anywhere. You can't prove I burned anything. You can't prove I killed anyone. This is a witch hunt. Then explain the ledger." Sam stepped forward. "Explain why William Whitmore's numbers don't match your official reports. Explain why everyone who noticed these discrepancies ended up dead." "Coincidence. 11 coincidences." Clara's voice cut through the room. 11 people dead, 11 accidents, 11 convenient inheritances. You expect us to believe that?" Cole's mask slipped, just for a moment. But Jacob saw it, the cold fury beneath the grandfather's smile. "You have no proof that I personally. We have your numbers." Clara held up the ledger. We have your fraud. And we have a federal marshal who's very interested in asking you more questions. Cole looked at Brennan. Sheriff, I demand you end this hearing immediately. Brennan didn't move. Sheriff? Wade. Clara's voice was soft, almost gentle. You don't have to protect him anymore. You don't have to be afraid. Brennan's face worked. Something shifted in his eyes. He killed William Wade. You know he did. You've known all along. I wasn't. You looked the other way because Cole paid you. Because it was easier than doing the right thing. Clara stepped toward him. But it's not too late. You can still choose who you want to be. Brennan looked at Cole, then at Clara, then at Lily, standing small and silent by her mother's side. He made me do it. Brennan's voice was barely a whisper. The papers, the debts, he made me forge them. Wade. Cole's voice was sharp. William didn't owe anyone anything. Cole needed the land, needed to get Clara out, so he made me create a debt that didn't exist. The courtroom gasped. You're admitting you forged documents. Sam Holloway's voice was cold. I'm admitting everything. Brennan pulled the star from his chest, dropped it on the bench. I'm done. Cole lunged for the door. Jacob caught him before he got 3 steps. Let me go. Cole struggled. You have no right. Harrison Cole, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and suspicion of multiple murders. Sam Holloway clicked handcuffs around Cole's wrists. You have the right to a trial, a real one, in Helena. Cole's eyes found Clara. Pure hatred burned there. You think this is over? You think you've won? His voice dropped to a hiss. I have friends everywhere. Judges, politicians, men who owe me favors. You'll never be safe. That girl of yours? Jacob's fist connected with Cole's jaw. The senator crumpled. Don't you ever threaten her daughter again. Sam Holloway hauled Cole to his feet. Get him out of here. My deputies will take him to Helena for trial. The courtroom erupted into chaos. People crying, people embracing, people staring at Clara like they'd never seen her before. Marcus Webb pushed through the crowd. You did it, Clara. You actually did it. We did it. Clara looked at the people who had stood. All of us. Agnes Porter took her hand. William would be proud. Clara's eyes filled. I hope so. Lily tugged on Jacob's sleeve. Is it over now? Really over? Jacob knelt down to her level. The hard part is over, sweetheart. Cole's going to prison. Your mama gets to keep the ranch, and nobody's ever going to try to take you away again. Lily threw her arms around his neck. I knew you'd fix it. I knew it from the river. Jacob held her tight. His eyes found Clara over the girl's shoulder. Clara was watching them, tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since he'd met her. Jacob. He stood Lily still in his arms. Yeah. Take us home. He reached for her hand. She took it. And together the 3 of them walked out of the courthouse into the bright Montana sun. The ride home felt different. The same road, the same summer heat pressing down on their shoulders, the same dust rising behind the horses' hooves. But everything had changed. Clara rode with Lily in front of her, one arm wrapped tight around her daughter's waist. Jacob rode beside them close enough that their knees almost touched. Nobody spoke. They didn't need to. Halfway home, Lily broke the silence. Mama? Yeah, baby. Is Papa happy now up in heaven? Clara's arm tightened around her daughter. I think so, baby. I think he's real happy. Because we got the bad man. Because we told the truth. And because we didn't give up. Lily was quiet for a moment. Mama. Yeah. I'm glad Jacob stayed. Clara's eyes found Jacob's across the space between their horses. Me too, baby. Me too. They reached the ranch as the sun began to sink. The burned barn stood like a skeleton against the orange sky. Blackened timbers, collapsed roof, the smell of ash still hanging in the air. But the cabin was whole. The fences Jacob had fixed stood straight and true. The garden Clara had replanted showed green shoots pushing through the soil. "Home," Lily said softly. "Home," Clara agreed. They dismounted together. Jacob took care of the horses while Clara carried a sleeping Lily inside. By the time he finished, Clara was on the porch with 2 cups of coffee. "She's out cold." "Big day for a little girl." "Big day for all of us." Jacob took the coffee, sat on the porch step. Clara sat beside him close enough that their shoulders touched. For a while, they just watched the sun go down. "What happens now?" Clara asked finally. "Cole goes to trial in Helena. With William's ledger and all those witnesses, he'll hang or spend the rest of his life in prison." "And Brennan?" "Same. He confessed to forgery in front of a federal marshal in half the county. He's not walking away from that." Clara nodded slowly. "It doesn't feel real. 18 months of fighting and now it's just over." "It ain't over." Jacob set down his coffee. "The fight's over, but the living's just starting." Clara looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean you've got a ranch to rebuild, a daughter to raise, a whole life ahead of you that Cole tried to steal." He paused. "Question is, what do you want that life to look like?" Clara was quiet for a long time. "I want to wake up without being afraid. I want to watch Lily grow up without looking over my shoulder. I want to plant a garden and actually see it bloom." She turned to face him. "And I want you. Here. Every day. For as long as you'll stay." "Forever sounds about right?" Clara's breath caught. "You mean that?" "I've been running for 2 years, Clara. Running from grief. Running from guilt. Running from the memory of a wife and daughter I couldn't save." His hand found the burn scar on his forearm. "But that little girl of yours stopped me, grabbed my horse in a river, and said please, and something in me knew before I even understood it, that this was where I was supposed to be. Jacob, I love you. I love Lily. I love this broken-down ranch with its burned barn and its stubborn cows and its garden that won't quit." He took her hands. "I'm done running, if you'll have me." Clara pulled him close. "I'll have you, forever." She kissed him, long and slow and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, Biscuit was sitting at their feet, tail wagging, watching them with doggy approval. "Guess he approves," Jacob said. "Guess he does." Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. "Jacob." "Yeah. We need to rebuild the barn." "I know." "And fix the north fence." "I know." "And clear the back pasture before winter." "Woman, I just proposed to you. Can we have one night before you put me back to work?" Clara laughed, a real laugh, free and bright and full of joy. It was the most beautiful sound Jacob had ever heard. The next morning, Marcus Webb arrived with a wagon full of lumber. "Heard you needed a barn." Clara stared at the wood, at Marcus, at the 2 men riding behind him. "Marcus, I can't—" "You can't pay for it, I know. Consider it a wedding gift." "How did you know about—" "Please." Marcus grinned. "The way that man looks at you, whole town's been taking bets on when he'd propose." The 2 men climbed down from their horses. Frank Davis the miner, Henry Chen. "We want to help," Frank said. "William was good to us. Time we returned the favor." Henry nodded. "My father always said, a debt of honor weighs heavier than gold. We owe this family." Clara's eyes filled. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll let us work." Marcus picked up a hammer. "Got a barn to build." By noon, 3 more wagons had arrived. The Henderson widow brought food. Agnes Porter brought her grandchildren to watch Lily while the adults worked. Even Reverend Hayes showed up, his sleeves rolled to his elbows, ready to lift and hammer. "Reverend," Clara said. "You don't have to—" "I do." His eyes were solemn. "I looked the other way for 18 months. Let me make amends. They worked through the heat of the day. Jacob and Marcus raised the frame. Frank and Henry cut boards. The Reverend and 3 other men from town carried lumber-hammered nails sweated in the July sun. Clara worked beside them, not watching from the porch, not directing from a distance. She was in the middle of it all, hammer in hand, building alongside the neighbors who had finally remembered how to be neighbors. By evening, the frame of a new barn stood where the old one had burned. They gathered around Clara's table for supper. 20 people crammed into a cabin meant for 3 eating salt pork and beans and cornbread that Agnes had made using Clara's recipe. To William Whitmore. Marcus raised his cup. Who fought for the truth even when it cost him everything? To William. The room echoed. Clara wiped her eyes. He would have loved this. All these people working together. He always said the best thing about this valley wasn't the land. It was the people on it. He was right, Agnes said. We just forgot for a while. Forgot how to look out for each other. Forgot how to stand up. She reached for Clara's hand. You reminded us. After supper, the neighbors drifted home one by one. Marcus was the last to leave. Same time tomorrow, he said from his wagon. We'll have that roof up by week's end. Marcus, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank that little girl of yours. He nodded toward the porch, where Lily sat with Biscuit watching the stars come out. She's the one who believed when the rest of us forgot how. Clara stood in the yard watching him drive away. Jacob came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. You all right? I'm better than all right. She leaned back against his chest. I'm home. They stood there in the warm summer dark, watching fireflies blink across the pasture. Jacob. Yeah. Will you teach Lily to break horses like her papa promised? Already planning on it. And teach her to shoot. When she's older. And read to her at night. William used to read to her every night before bed. Stories about brave knights and beautiful princesses. I'll read to her. Jacob's arms tightened around Clara. I'll do everything a father does, because that's what I am now. That's what she made me standing in that river. Clara turned in his arms. I love you, Jacob McCade. I love you too, Clara Jane. Whitmore. What? Clara Jane Whitmore. For now. She smiled. But I wouldn't mind if that changed someday. How does Clara Jane McCade sound? Sounds like home. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. Lily appeared at the door. Are you two done being mushy? Because I want Jacob to read me a story. Clara laughed. He's all yours, baby. Jacob let Clara go with one last squeeze. What story do you want? The one about the cowboy who saved the princess. I don't know that one. Then make it up. Lily grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the cabin. You're good at making things up. That's what Mama says. Does she now? She says you made up a whole new life just by deciding to stay. Jacob looked back at Clara, standing in the yard with the stars coming out behind her. Your mama's a smart woman. The smartest in the whole territory. Everybody knows that now. 3 weeks later, they got married. It was a simple ceremony, Reverend Hayes officiating. The whole town gathered in the valley where William's ranch met the river. Clara wore the white dress her mother had worn 40 years ago. Lily carried wildflowers she'd picked that morning. Biscuit sat at the altar like he belonged there. Marcus Webb stood as Jacob's witness. Agnes Porter stood as Clara's. Do you, Jacob Elias McCade, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Clara Jane Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. The crowd cheered. Lily jumped up and down, scattering flower petals everywhere. Biscuit barked until Agnes made him stop. And Jacob McCade kissed his wife for the first time, with the whole valley watching. I love you, Clara whispered against his lips. I love you too. Both of you. Forever. Lily squeezed between them. Does this mean you're my papa now, for real? For real, sweetheart. Forever and ever. Forever and ever. Lily threw her arms around both of them at once, holding tight like she'd never let go. And Jacob McCade, the man who'd spent 2 years running from everything, found himself standing in a river valley in Montana, married to a woman he'd known for 3 weeks, father to a daughter who wasn't his by blood, but was his in every way that mattered. He wasn't running anymore. He was home. That night, after the celebration ended and the guests went home, the three of them sat on the porch together. Lily was falling asleep against Jacob's shoulder, Biscuit sprawled across their feet. Clara leaned against Jacob's other side, her hand finding his in the dark. Jacob. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For stopping. At the river. When Lily grabbed your horse. Clara's voice was soft. You could have kept riding. Should have, probably. A strange child in the middle of nowhere begging for help. Most men would have pulled away. I ain't most men. No, you're not. Clara squeezed his hand. You're exactly the man we needed. Exactly when we needed you. Maybe that's how it works. Jacob looked up at the stars. Maybe that's what grace is. Being in the right place at the right time and choosing to stay instead of running. Is that what you believe? I believe Lily found me for a reason. I believe you were worth fighting for. I believe William left that ledger because he knew someday his wife would be strong enough to use it. He paused. And I believe Emma and Sarah are up there somewhere watching. Happy that I finally stopped punishing myself for not saving them. Clara's eyes glistened. You think they'd approve of us? I think Sarah would love you. I think Emma would have followed Lily around like a shadow, wanting to be just like her. His voice cracked. I think they'd tell me it was about damn time I started living again. Clara reached up and touched his face. Then let's live, Jacob. Together. For all the people we lost and all the people we found. Deal. Lily stirred against his shoulder. Are we going inside? Soon, sweetheart. Can Biscuit sleep in my room tonight? He sleeps in your room every night. I know, but I wanted to ask proper. Since Jacob's my papa now, and papas make the rules. Jacob smiled. Biscuit can sleep wherever he wants. Even in your bed. Let's not push it. Lily giggled, then yawned. Papa. The word hit Jacob like a fist to the chest. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm glad I grabbed your horse. Me too. I was scared, in the river. The water was cold and I didn't know if you'd stop, but I did it anyway. That's called courage, Lily. Mama says courage is being scared and doing the thing anyway. Your mama's right. Mama's always right. Lily yawned again. Papa, yeah. Don't leave, ever. Promise. Jacob pulled her closer. I promise, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. Not ever. Good. She closed her eyes. Within seconds, her breathing deepened into sleep. Clara stood carefully. I'll take her to bed. I'll be right in. Clara carried their daughter inside. Jacob sat alone on the porch, Biscuit's warm weight across his feet. He looked out at the ranch they would rebuild together. The barn frame rising against the stars. The fences standing straight. The garden pushing green shoots through the summer soil. He thought about the river crossing. About a barefoot girl with fierce green eyes refusing to let go of his horse. About the words that had stopped him cold. Please, mister. They're gonna take my mama away. And she ain't got nobody. He'd had nobody too. For 2 years. Running from town to town. Job to job. Never staying long enough for anyone to need him. Never staying long enough to fail anyone again. But Lily hadn't asked him to save her. She'd asked him to stay. And staying had changed everything. Jacob looked down at the burn scar on his forearm. The mark he'd carried for 2 years. The reminder of the family he'd lost. It didn't ache tonight. It just reminded him that he was still alive. Still capable of love. Still worthy of being someone's father, someone's husband, someone's home. Clara appeared in the doorway. You coming in? In a minute. She walked out to him, sat beside him on the step. What are you thinking about? About how much can change in 3 weeks. That's not much time. No, but it's enough. He took her hand. Enough to fall in love. Enough to become a family. Enough to learn that running from pain doesn't make it stop. It just keeps you from finding joy again. Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. Jacob. Yeah. I'm happy. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was immense. 18 months of grief. 18 months of fighting. 18 months of wondering if she would ever feel anything but fear and exhaustion and rage. And now, sitting on her porch with her new husband, her daughter asleep inside her neighbors, finally standing beside her. She was happy. I'm happy too, Jacob said. And he meant it. For the first time in 2 years, he meant it. They sat together in the warm summer dark, watching the stars wheel overhead. Biscuit sighed contentedly at their feet. Inside the cabin, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of cowboys and princesses and families that stayed together forever. And somewhere up above, Jacob liked to think Emma and Sarah and William were watching, proud of the people they'd left behind, grateful that love had found a way to heal what grief had broken, happy that their sacrifice had led to this moment, this family, this home. Jacob McCade had spent 2 years running from everything that mattered. Clara Whitmore had spent 18 months fighting alone against an enemy too powerful to beat. Lily Grace had spent 6 years being brave when she shouldn't have had to be. But now they had each other, and that changed everything. Some men ride their whole lives looking for a place to stop. They chase horizons and cross rivers and wear out horses searching for something they can't name. And some men get stopped by a 6-year-old girl standing in 3 inches of water saying please. They find that everything they were looking for was right there waiting in the grip of a small hand that wouldn't let go. Jacob McCade stopped running the day Lily Whitmore grabbed his horse. Everything after that was just learning how to stay. And staying, he discovered, was the bravest thing he'd ever done.